Hi, welcome back to Grace-Filled Gifts. I'm so excited that you decided to join me again as I continue sharing my life journey with you. Last time I shared with you just a little bit about my family and some of our likes and dislikes, just little tidbits about us. Today I'd like to go a little bit deeper and share with you my journey from where I've come from. Every person has a story, and all these stories have a beginning. And mine really starts back when I was 16. And as I share this with you, I hope that you see God in the details, because as my life has unfolded and I have reflected back, and hindsight is 20/20, isn't it? And as I look back and over the years where God has brought me from, I see Him in the details, and it's really a thing of beauty. And ironically, the worst thing that ever happened to me was actually the best thing that ever happened to me. It has made me who I am today, and I wouldn't change that for the life of me. So, every story has a beginning. Here's mine. I was 16. It all started my junior year of high school. It was the winter of my junior year, and I noticed a funny bump on my shoulder, my right shoulder. Anybody that knows me knows that let's just say I'm not graceful. And so I tended to injure myself quite often, so I didn't really think anything of it at that point. But it continued to grow, and over a couple weeks' time it had grown significantly, so I finally decided to say something to my parents. And that was the day that the chaos ensued. I went through several doctor's appointments, ended up going into surgery that same week, only to find out that I, at the age of 16, was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. Not exactly what every 16-year-old girl wants to hear. But the funny thing is somehow I knew, even before they told me, I knew that this was my life now, and that this was what it was going to be. I knew it was going to be bad. I knew it was going to be horrific. But I also knew, I had this peace inside of me that knew that everything was going to work out and it was going to be okay. I don't know how I knew that. I did. And I can tell you the moment that I knew. I remember it very, very clearly. I had gone in for an ultrasound before my surgery, before I knew that I had cancer. And as I was laying there and they were scanning both sides of my shoulders, the left side was just pure, clear muscle tissue. It was white. You could see everything looked healthy. Then they went over to the right side, and it was just black, this black darkness. And at that point, I knew. I didn't know it was cancer, but I knew it was going to be bad. But I had this strange sense of peace just wash over me, like it's going to be okay. And I clung to that during that. And I remember when I came out of surgery, it was late at night, and so my parents didn't allow any visitors to come up, although two of my friends snuck through anyways. But I was pretty drugged up, so I didn't remember much of that. But the next morning, I could hear my dad outside my room, and my nurse asked him. I could hear her say, "Did you tell her?" And my dad said, "No, I'm on my way in to tell her now." And as my dad sat down across from me, he grabbed my hand, and tears were just flowing down his face. And he looked at me and he says, "Sweetie, you have cancer." And I'm pretty sure I almost gave him a heart attack when I said, "I know." And my dad's like, "What? How did you know?" And I said, I don't know. I just knew. I knew it was going to be bad. But I also know that it's going to be okay. And that was the moment that I knew that God had me, that He would work it out. Whatever the outcome was, He was in control, and I was at peace with that. Well, it was a rare form of cancer. It was called a sarcoma, and at that point, that was virtually unheard of at that time. It was a very rare form, and I ended up going to Chicago, and even they only saw a couple cases of it a year. And so they basically told my parents that this was really an aggressive form of cancer, and that if I made it to 5 years, we were doing pretty good. But that was pretty much my life expectancy. And I remember going in for my first chemotherapy treatment, and she told me, after one round of this, it will most likely make you sterile, and you were set for 7. So at the age of 16, I was told that I may not live past 5 years, and if I did, I would most likely never have my own children. Well, not exactly what every 16-year-old girl wants to hear, but like every teenager, I was like, whatever, it doesn't affect me right now, so I'm good. Every teenager thinks they're invincible. And that was pretty much the attitude I had, but at the same time, I really feel like that was also God giving me that peace, and just letting me know that He had a marvelous plan for my life, and whatever that was, I knew that He was in control and that He had the best outcome for me. So I did undergo some treatments, radiation, chemotherapy, and then we waited. A year went by, 2 years went by, 3 years went by, 4 years went by. I was doing really well. I had met my college sweetheart, who ended up being my husband. And when I met him, that was the fall semester of my, the winter semester of my sophomore year. And so we had been dating, a little more than 6 months, 7 or 8 months, and then I was told that my cancer had returned. And this time it was in my lungs, which is strangely the most common place that this type of cancer reoccurs. And that began the whirlwind that was my life. So after that, Dave stuck through with me, and we got married and began our life together. And going into that, he knew that I most likely would never be able to get pregnant, but, we said that was okay and that God would work it out for us, whether that was to adopt or whatever that was going to happen. Well, 6 months into our first year of marriage, we got the shock of our lives when we found out we were pregnant with our first child. I can still remember just the utter shock that came across me. I found out in the middle of the night, and I remember waking Dave up, and I was just shaking I uncontrollably. I couldn't control myself, and he was immediately awake once I told him that news, because we were both not expecting that at all. But it was the best news ever, and I knew that was God, because I had 7 rounds of that awful chemotherapy when they told me that 1 would most likely make me sterile. But clearly God had other plans. So 1 year later, Savannah was born, our beautiful, beautiful baby girl, Savannah. And after she was born, she was 3 months old when I found out my cancer had come back again. And it came back on and off over the next several years. I had multiple surgeries, lots of chemotherapy, and it was really a rough couple of years. And then we found out we were pregnant with Luke, even after more chemotherapy. God just kept on showering us with blessings and showing us that He was bigger. He was bigger than these medicines. He's bigger than cancer. He's bigger than what the doctors were telling me. And so we ended up having our baby boy, Luke. And after he was born, I had 2 more surgeries after that, and we continued, just hoping that would be the last. 18 months later, our 3rd son was born, Asher. And I still couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I was a mom to my own 3 beautiful, precious children. You wouldn't know it by looking at them, considering they look like their daddy, but they're mine. And they are my miraculous gifts, blessings from God. I wanted nothing more all growing up than to be a mom. That was my dream. I had a really hard time picking a college major because they don't have a major for being a mom. And that's all I really wanted to do. And God honored that, and He gave me that 3 times over. And there are days that I struggle. Honestly, there are days that I struggle with joy in motherhood, as every mother does. But God is faithful in reminding me that those 3 little tiny people that are living in my house are blessings straight from him. And that's all I wanted. I desperately cried out to him like Hannah in the Bible for a child, and he gave me 3. And I was not deserving of that by any means. That's called grace. That's why I named this blog Grace-Filled Gifts, because over and over and over again, God has blessed my life with gifts full of grace, because I don't deserve any of them, but he has seen fit to give them to me anyways. And that's why I can't wait to share my story and to let people know that God is real. He is bigger than anything out there, and he is in control, even when it seems like everything is out of control. He's got you. He does. All you need to do is believe that. Anyways, I'm getting a little off track, but so Asher was born, and I continued to go back every 6 months for tests. And what the doctors said, most likely I wouldn't live past 5 years. I'd most likely be sterile. God has once again proven that he is bigger than all of that, because, ladies and gentlemen, it has been 14 years since the day that I was diagnosed with cancer, over 14 years, and I have 3 children of my own. And even, I just had a check last week, and my doctor looked at me and he goes, you know, a few years ago, had you told me that you would be where you are at this point right now, I would not have believed you. He was stunned. He couldn't believe it. And just goes to show you that doctors don't know everything, that God is bigger than all of that. He is. He has got a marvelous plan. And if that plan had been to take me at the 5-year point, that would have been okay too. Because he's God. He is in control of everything, and his plan is marvelous. It is wonderful. It is better than any plan that I could ever have, no matter what I may think. Because I can't see the future. I can't see all of the pieces in the puzzle fitting together, but he can. And that's where it takes trust from us, faith from us, to rely and to put in him that he knows what he's doing, that he has our back, that he has the best possible scenario, life for us. Like, that is his plan, and we just have to trust in that. And that's really hard to do when you're faced with difficulties like cancer, or losing a child, or job loss, or having to move away from family, or whatever it may be, death of a loved one. I've been through just about all of that, and I will share some more of my journey with you in future blogs. But today I just wanted to tell you, if you're struggling with even wondering if there is a God, and seeing all these tragedies and stuff that are covering our news feeds and our newspapers and Facebook, and I mean, that's all you hear nowadays. If you're struggling with knowing if God is real, or if wondering what he's doing, ladies and gentlemen, I urge you, I strongly urge you to just have faith. The Bible calls us to just have faith. We may not understand what's going on, and you know, we may never fully understand what's going on this side of heaven. We will someday. But that's where we have to trust that God's plan is bigger and better than ours. And he is the almighty creator of the universe, so who better to have your back than him? And all it takes is faith, just believing. It could take faith of a mustard seed, that's all. A tiny seed, that's all. God will do the rest. You just have to believe that he will. Yeah, God has brought me here today. I am who I am because of what he brought me through. 14 years. Even I'm surprised by that, but I'm incredibly grateful too. And I can't wait to share with you what God continues to do in my life. And I hope that you follow this with me and walk this journey with me. We can do this together. God made us to be in relationship and to have accountability with one another. So let's do that together. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your comments, questions, whatever it may be, prayers, prayer requests. I'd love to do that.